Welcome back, ladies, to another episode of Dream, Heal, Thrive. My name is Monet Farcole, and today we're going to be talking about stepping fully into our power, owning a room, every space that we walk into, every space that we walk into. So if you've ever felt like you had to shrink yourself to fit into another person's expectations of you, then this episode is for you.
Ooh, that's a good one. And I am your co-host, Charisse Reed. And today we're going to dive into what it means to be bold in every area of your life, from your career to your relationships to your even personal growth. It's time to stop playing small and start living in your full brilliance. You got it.
The world needs
Yeah,
us. The first topic we want to tackle is recognizing the barriers to boldness. What gets in our way? A lot of it is societal conditioning. Women are often taught to be more agreeable, to be quiet and accommodating, even at the expense of our own power. And what a miss. What a miss for everyone, not just for us, but for the world. When we don't show up fully and in our total boldness and fully in our power, then we're not able to contribute at the levels that we could otherwise.
absolutely. That being taught to be quiet and don't
Mhm.
rock the boat, and you don't want to say anything that's going to make everybody angry. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I know we were taught when we were growing up that's what it was, but it's like now it's time for us to speak up. It's time for us to stop holding back, because you're not truly living in your true self by being that way.
Right, right. And not getting all that is for you. Even something as small, and it's not really small, but I know for my generation for sure, and I'm pretty sure that it has continued. Even asking for raises, right? Men go in there and they ask for what they want. Whereas we a lot of times just accept what they give us, and then we're afraid and timid to go back and say, you know what? I've done this, I've done that, and I deserve an increase.
Yes.
This is what I think I deserve. But we aren't taught, no, we're not even taught to have those conversations or
Yeah.
encouraged to have those conversations. So we have to we have to work a little harder against some of these societal conditionings. The next thing is fear of judgment. A lot of times we wonder, what are people going to think if I speak up? And if I take up more space and if I demand more of myself and for myself. What are people going to think? Am I going to lose out on friendships? Am I going to lose out on relationships? If I'm as bold and big as I need to be, will the person I'm dealing with, will they be able to handle it? Or will they want to leave? And I think fear comes into that a lot. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. Especially when I think about fear of judgment, of course, it's personal, but I think about it when you're trying to get in those boardrooms. When you're working in corporate or a 9 to 5 job and you want that raise, if you speak up, of course, people are going to label you as the B word. She's being too
Yes.
aggressive. Why is she, speaking up? Why does she have to speak like that? So that fear causes you to kind of like step back and, oh my gosh, it really makes you even doubt yourself. So,
Yeah, yeah. And the next, that self-doubt and what we call that imposter syndrome.
mhm.
How many times have you held back because you didn't think you were ready or qualified
Woo!
enough, knowing full well you could run circles around the people at work or in your business or in different arenas in our lives. We could run circles around
Yeah.
people, and yet we still decide to shrink and not show up fully.
Yeah, that self-doubt and imposter syndrome is a doozy. Especially when you're transitioning from corporate and saying, "Hey, I want to start my own business."
Mhm.
Now you're in this big pond and you're a small fish. So you see all these people doing all these things, and that's when you start saying, am I good enough for this? Am I strong enough for? Can I do this? Because you're watching what someone else is doing and not really tapping into what your brilliance is, what your gem is, what is it that you're great at. You're watching everybody else, and it allows, especially with the fear of judgment. Okay, no, I don't want to put myself out there because everybody's going to see me fall. So it just It's just like a snowball effect of all these things holding you back.
Yeah, I must admit myself, and I started later as my girls got older, but I don't think we have these conversations with our daughters around their power and really fully owning a room and how you do it and how you advocate for yourself and how to build up their confidence so that they can walk into rooms and own it. They can ask for the job that they know they deserve. They can get out there and not feel like they're an imposter when certainly they have all of these gifts and talents to share, but because they don't see that in themselves, they shrink. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a good point because our daughters are not gonna, especially when they're teenagers. Maybe now they're older, we can have those deeper conversations with them. But when children are growing up, they actually watch what you do versus what you say.
Mm,
So they're
hello,
watching they're watching
hello.
how you
Yeah,
respond to things. They watch how you dress. They watch how you react to things. They watch how you walk into rooms. And then
yeah,
they want to emulate you. So if you're shadowing down and you're not, speaking up for yourself, it's going to make them talk with a whisper.
yeah.
It's going to make them not know how powerful they can be.
Mm,
So, building ourselves up is so important because we're able to then show our daughters this is how it's done. You
yes,
don't take no for an answer. You have
yes.
the sauce.
That's a good.
But they watch what we do. They don't listen to what we say. Think of how we
Right,
tell our children not to do something. They're going to do it
right.
anyway because they don't hear us.
We
But
can't go out there and be big and step into a room and we we shrunk over in the corner somewhere,
yes,
not
yes.
being
So
everything that they know that we can be, that we know we can be.
yes, so many different facets. And as we talk about that, we go more into why boldness is necessary. The impact of playing small, when we hold back, we not only limit ourselves, but also the people we are meant to
Mm,
inspire
mm.
and uplift.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. Hello.
So if I'm not, if nothing else, I show my daughters, but my children as a whole, is that I never stop pushing towards my dream. I never stopped. I kept going. And that teaches them resilience. And it teaches them to keep on going. So it's people watching you when you think they're not watching you, believe it or
That's
not. What you
true.
think?
Well, I also think that the gifts and talents we have, we are meant to share them. So if we don't feel the confidence to share them, to be as big and as bold as we possibly can, then we're cheating other people out of the gift that we have to give them so that then they can be their biggest, boldest self.
Yeah,
There might be something that we have to share with a person that we don't have the confidence to share. And so all the people that we could touch, and it doesn't mean you have to be on these huge platforms. It could be the people in your family, it could be the people in your community, it could be the people in your house. Whoever is meant to get that gift from you, they're denied that opportunity because you decided to play small.
absolutely. I totally agree. And then we talk about boldness as an act of self love. We're all about self love, loving on ourselves. Claiming your space in your dreams is a radical act of self love. That means
Yes.
that you're stepping into your purpose. You're stepping into that passion. And you
Mhm.
don't care who thinks what. This
Hmm.
is me. I am her. Love me or not, but
Right.
I am here.
Exactly. And you have to, have a level of self-love to do it, right? You have to believe in yourself. You have to, and that's why this work is so important, so that we can see our way to self-care and self-love, so that we can love ourselves enough to put ourselves out there and do what we were put here to do.
Yes, I love that. I love everything about that. We talk about generational shifts. Now, we talk about our daughters, but
Mhm.
we have to remember we are the cycle breakers. We
Mhm.
are the ones paving for the future generations to show up unapologetically. So, when we do what we're supposed to do and step
Mhm.
into our boldness and tap into all of that greatness, they're watching us. They're
Yeah.
saying, dang, I see mama over here doing her thing. She's not taking any prisoners. She's stepping in that room and she's at that boardroom and she's at that table and she's saying, this is what I want. And that allows them to step into rooms and say, you know what, I am all that. I
Right.
do have the qualifications. I
Right.
am overqualified. And
Mhm.
they will take up the space with who they are unapologetically.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. Like you said so well, they're looking at what we're doing, not what we're saying. So we have to show them the way. We have to show them how to take up space in a room and how to live unapologetically, how to be bold and what does that look like? And having conversation with them around it might not look the same for them as it does for me, but emboldening them and empowering them to show up in big ways in their own lives and on their own path.
Yeah. And
Mm.
this generation is so in tune with their feelings that giving them that extra boldness allows them to live more freely. And watching your children and step into who they are at an earlier age than what we did, that is like the icing on the cake. That is something so great that
Yes,
we
isn't
also,
it?
I always tell my kids, I want y'all to be bigger, faster versions of me.
Yes.
So everything that I have and I've learned, my wisdom, I want to pour it into y'all, but I also want
Mhm.
you to see me living in my truth so you will be comfortable living in yours.
Yes,
Because if you're living in your truth in your 20s and your 30s,
I
my
know.
goodness, when you get to my age in your 50s,
Yes.
breathe.
I
The
know.
instant
I didn't even start really living boldly until my 50s. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. So my daughters are in their 30s and 40s now, and I
Yes.
see them really going after their dreams. And it can be a bumpy road. It can be a bumpy road,
Mhm,
but that's what they've seen now. And I
mhm.
encourage them, and it's just so important. Next thing is releasing the fear and embracing confidence. So there's a quote that I've shared with you, Charisse, and I'd like to share with the audience. It's like when the world tells you to shrink, expand, because there's so many things out there telling us to shrink, especially as Black women, I have to say, especially as Black women.
Mhm,
And it's
mhm,
just so important that we find ways to release the fear and embrace confidence because we're talking about talking to our daughters and emboldening another generation, but there are women out there who aren't going to get fed like that. And you
mhm.
have to find it within yourself. You have to find it within yourself. So, one practical tip is to identify where is fear holding you back and challenge that fear head on. A lot of times our fears are around our beliefs. When we have these beliefs, sometimes we don't even know why we believe something. It's something we heard our grandmama and our aunties and whoever say, or it's things that society has told us. We get all these beliefs from sometimes not even from within our own selves. And we have to challenge any of those beliefs that instill that kind of fear that prevents us from really being our boldest and best self.
Yeah, I think people are afraid to challenge it. And it's been said a bazillion times, but your your best life is on the other side of that fear.
Mhm.
And when you get on the other side, you're like, man, it wasn't even as hard as I thought it was. But it's the fear that is like a big boulder that's, oh my gosh, I can't push this. I can't
Yes.
push this. But when you get on the other side, so you have to challenge it. You have to, push yourself to be so uncomfortable that you get through it. You have to challenge yourself.
Yeah, you do. You do. And, it really requires us to have a shift in our mindset. So it's like confidence isn't about being fearless. No, anytime we challenge ourselves to step outside of the box, right? To step outside of our comfort zone, we are going to feel fear. So it's not about living life without, avoiding fear. No, that's not going to happen if you
Mhm.
challenge yourself. It's about being fearless, but taking action despite fear. It's like, I had a fear of speaking in public, and there was something in me that made me decide to apply for a job as a learning and development specialist. And as a learning and development specialist, I had to get up every week and teach classes, like 40 people or so, every like 3 times a week. But I applied for it And you know what? I found that I absolutely love it. But imagine if I didn't challenge myself to just at least try it, right? Try it and push myself beyond that fear. I would have never known how
Yeah,
much I love public speaking
yeah.
and what a disservice to me,
And,
to the people that I can
yeah,
inspire through public
yeah.
speaking.
And what's so funny is that usually the thing that you're most afraid of is where your jam is. That's the very thing that you should be doing is the thing that scares you the most. It's so ironic how that works. I
Right?
always tell people confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about fearing less. Because you're
Mm.
going to be afraid. Every level, everything that you do that's different out of your box and out of your realm of what you normally do when you're pivoting, when you're changing, when you're growing, it's always going to be some type of fear. But it's
Yeah,
about fearing less and still doing it.
that's right. Yeah. We talk about affirmations on this show, and we give you some suggestions, but I always highly recommend that you find affirmations that resonate with you because you have to feel excited. There has to be something that stirs in you when you say your affirmations in order for them to really land and make a difference in our lives. So, this is just one that we came up with, and it's I am bold, I am powerful, and I deserve to take up space.
Ooh, that's
I am
nice.
bold, I am powerful, and I deserve to take up space.
Nice, 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 nice. So, how can we step into boldness daily? How can
Mm,
we do this every day? Because this is a muscle that has to be strengthened, just
yes.
like confidence. You
Mhm,
have to strengthen it. It's certain things you have to do and add it into a routine in order for you to get stronger at it. And it becomes a habit, then it becomes who you are, part of who you are.
mhm,
So, one of the first things I would say is to speak up, whether it's in a meeting, a relationship, a social setting. Own your voice. You
mhm,
have a voice, you have an opinion, you have something to say. Say it.
mhm.
Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. And it may be that moment where you say, you know what, the room is quiet. Say it because
Mhm.
you have it in your mind. It's something you want to say. Just say it. It's
Yeah.
not going to hurt anybody but yourself, really, honestly. So just say it.
And sometimes you have a meeting coming up, you have a conversation coming up with a loved one, or you're meeting up with friends or coworkers in a social setting, right? Think of it in advance. Think of the thing that you want to say in advance. And maybe it changes based on how the conversation or the meeting goes, but prepare for it, right? So that you really stick to it and that you have something to contribute to that conversation.
Yes, yes. And then the next thing is about taking risks. Growth happens when you dare to do something outside of your comfort zone. We speak on this all the time. And it's a big one because that's where growth happens.
Mhm.
You're not going to grow if you don't do anything that you're afraid of, or that is going to challenge you, or that's going to stretch you.
Right,
You're
right.
not growing. If you're doing the same thing, living the same way, speaking the same way that you did 25 years ago, I will
Mhm.
pray for you because you want to grow, reflection and see what you've done and what you can do better. But you have to step outside of your comfort zone. That's the only way it's going to happen. Somebody's not going to knock on your door and say, okay, come on, we're going to help you grow. No, this is a personal thing. You have to do it. You have to step out of your comfort zone.
And how many of us have friends that we've seen year after year after year after year? They're just in the same place. And no judgment, they get to choose how they live their lives. But you have to wonder, like, what gifts are they not sharing? What's in their brilliance and their gifts and all of the things that they have to offer that they are not giving to the world and to the people around them and to themselves. It's a gift to yourself also to grow and learn new things and expand who you are. Those are things that help us to not get stuck.
Yeah. 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 And
Mhm.
then our favorite one, setting boundaries. We talked about this last week, but it's true. Saying no is actually a power move. Energizes you and it gives you power. Now, the first time you do it, it may hurt your feelings because you don't want to say no, especially if you are a recovering people pleaser. But it gets easier because you find that when you say no, you have the power over your day, over things that are going on. You're not taking on someone else's problems or issues or situations. And it gives you a sense of peace.
Yeah. And saying no with intention, like really looking at your life and the places in your life that you are overextending and realize that you have to set some boundaries and being intentional about what are those boundaries? What are those boundaries I need to set? And under what circumstances am I saying no? So that you can have the power behind it, right? To really stick to those boundaries that you need to have.
Yeah. And then you want to surround yourself with bold energy. We talk about some finding your tribe and being around people that are like minded. You want to be around people who are stepping into their boldness or in their boldness or wanting to step into their boldness because that energy around you is going to reflect off each other. So if
Yeah.
you're around people who are ready to do more and they want more and they're speaking up for themselves more, that's going to encourage you and motivate you to do the same thing. So if you're around people who say, I'm not playing small this year, I'm getting out here and I'm doing this thing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start wanting to do those things too, because you're going to start feeling that energy that's coming from those people.
And you know, and that's the reverse is also true. So if you're around a lot of people who are stagnant and not moving and not doing anything new with their lives, and the conversation is the same conversation time and again, you're going to be stagnant. You're going to get caught in the mud of that stagnation and not being able to push yourself to move forward because it's so much easier when you're around other people that are doing the same thing. But when you're with people who don't see the world the way you do, that don't want anything better, then it's difficult for you to make moves outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah. And also, it becomes a struggle
Yeah.
because now you're struggling to have a conversation because you're thinking one way and moving towards this way, and another person is not there yet or not even wanting to be there. And so their perception is more pessimistic
Mm.
versus optimistic. So now you got two things combating each other, and it just becomes a struggle conversation. So being around people who are like-minded and want to do the same things that you want to do, who are pushing towards bigger and better goals, that is the recipe for success.
And it's an energy drainer, I think, when we're around people who aren't thinking like us and don't really want to move forward. Sometimes our energy is kind of sucked out of us because there's no one feeding us in those conversations and in the movement and in the idea of moving forwards. I think it can really be an energy drain.
Yeah, it is. It is. It takes a lot.
Yeah. So as we're living boldly without apology, it's good to have references, people that you can look to who are doing things like that. And one person that I think is an excellent example of a woman who embodies boldness is Michelle Obama. It was just one of the most uplifting and motivating things to see a woman that looked like me in the Oval Office. And she was a bold Black woman without apology.
Yes,
Everything she was without apology. And she was brilliant too. She was
yes.
beautiful and smart and strong. She had opinions. It
And
was
she toned out
clear.
the noise. And she toned out the noise. She didn't let
Yes,
anything or anybody get to her
exactly.
who she was.
Loved it. I loved how she showed up in that role because she could have been redefined by that role. She could have let that role overtake her and make her small to just make room for her husband. But no, they were clearly partners. They were clearly partners.
Yes, yes. And I like Viola Davis. And one of the reasons I like her so much is because she has such a strong resilience and she was so focused on her craft and so determined to make the impact that she wanted. She
Mm.
never gave up. But hearing her story was so powerful of what she's overcome as a child and being told certain things and how she would never do this and how she never again she toned out the noise and she faced the fear of what was being said, what was around her, her environment, and she stayed on that and she kept going and I feel like she blossomed and
Yes.
now she's
So our
like,
eyes.
she's been acting for a while, but when she finally like blossomed and she really start finding her voice and speaking up. It was
Mhm.
so refreshing to see it, and it just gave me so much life because I was like, for someone to be in settings and situations where she kept being knocked down or told no or told you're not good enough, and you have to find it within yourself to build yourself up, be your own cheerleader. Because just because you don't see my greatness, I have to see my greatness.
Yeah. Yes. And redefining beauty, quite honest, a dark-skinned Black woman getting roles, especially
Yes,
those leading roles and
yes,
series, things like that. She really helped me and others and everyone around her see her beauty, her
yes,
beauty. And it's been a lovely thing to
yes,
watch because I think
yes.
she's just fantastic.
You
What
know,
a role model. What a
yes,
role model. And she speaks her mind too. I love her posts and everything out there on social media. I love how she shows up, definitely in her boldness for sure.
yeah,
And then just redefining boldness for ourselves. So being bold isn't just about being loud, right? The loudest voice in the room isn't always the one that people need to listen to. It's about being intentional and unwavering in our purpose. And
mhm,
that's why we do this work. We do this work so that we can get to the point where we even understand and know our purpose, because that gives us the confidence to speak up loud and to have a voice and to want to share what it is that we have with other people.
yeah. It is, and I love just being able to speak your truth. You know, and I don't know if it's an age thing, and I that's why it's so important we pour into our daughters when they're younger because I know, like you said, when I turn 50, I don't care. I'm gonna speak it. I'm gonna dress where I want to dress. I'm gonna wear what I want to wear. If you don't like it, turn your head.
Yeah.
I don't care. Even like when
Woo.
people bring negativity to you, you just be like, I don't care about that. It doesn't affect me, so I don't care. So
Mhm.
you're more boldly, and I think a lot of it has to do with we have been through so many life experiences. You realize that some stuff just don't matter.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it started around 40. I started to find my voice a little, but by 50, I was like, I don't care. Like you. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's like it's
yeah,
definitely a resounding I don't care when you
yeah.
hit your 50s.
Yes.
And then by 60s, it's like really
Yeah,
abandon it all.
right. Girl, don't say nothing to me.
I'm living this life and I really don't care. But it is a lovely space to occupy when you really have that wavering belief and idea of your purpose and having a voice to even
Yeah.
share, be bold enough to share it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a thermometer that turns on or off when we get to a certain age because it's just like I really started really caring more about me
Mhm.
and not what other people thought about me. And I really consider that when you turn the knob on that, that's redefining your boldness. And
Yeah.
it goes into, owning your story, your journey, your experiences. Your voice is valuable. Don't let anyone dim your light. That is so true. And that's when you get to the point where you don't care, you're going to tell folk about themselves. You're going to tell them about themselves, but you also not going to, you know, dim the light on your experiences. You're more, I wouldn't say proud, but the wisdom speaks so loud.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and being intentional about life really in my 50s was there was a lot more intention put to what I did and how I did it and really finding my voice because life and family and all the different things that pull at us can cause us to lose our voice because we got so many others in our ear. And so I know
Yeah.
in my 50s, it was really about finding my voice. And in finding my voice, it helped me find my purpose and being able to be bolder in those settings.
Yeah.
So as usual, we have a challenge for the week, and that is to identify at least one area where you've been playing small and decide on one bold action you can take this week to step into your power and do it. So find at least one area that you've been playing small and decide on one bold action you can take this week.
As usual, share your wins with us. We love to hear them. Use the hashtag Dream Heal Thrive so we can celebrate you stepping into your greatness and your boldness.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And as always, if this episode resonates with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also share this with another woman who needs to hear this message. And remember, you are powerful, you are worthy, and the world needs your boldness.
Here's to dreaming, healing, and thriving. See you next time. Bye.
Okay.